Oh boy, here we go, yet again. Kings and queens, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having a fantastic day and doing well. Today we're talking about something that isn't doing so well, Dead by Daylight. Now, I wasn't planning on making a video like this. I wasn't even thinking about doing anything like this, and I was scrolling through Twitter, which don't do, by the way. It's never good. But I caught something, and I saw someone posted that Dead by Daylight has been getting a lot of mostly negative reviews. So at first, honestly, I didn't believe it. I was like, I know it's not doing that good, but is it really that bad? Took a look, and sure enough, it's 100% true. So I went through some of these comments. I decided to read them. What were people saying? How many hours in the game? And to my surprise, it was most of the OG players that are like, no, this is just not it. We are not having fun anymore. And it seems like this has been a cycle that has been happening to a lot of people as of recently, where they're just finally hitting that end point of Dead by Daylight. Now, this happens for a lot of people where they go through cycles of DBD, you know, they don't enjoy it and then they leave. That happens quite often, but it seems more now that more people than ever are feeling this way than ever before that we've ever seen. And there's a multitude of reasons for why this is happening. And we're going to talk about all of the causes of this and how behavior can correct this. What happens if they don't? Now, before we go ahead and jump on into everything, I want to let you guys know that today's video is sponsored. And let's play a little game. What do you think sponsored today's awesome video? No, it's not a VPN, and no, it's not for a new set of headphones. Bingo! It's Raid Shadow Legends. You've heard the name, but do you actually know what you're missing out on here? I'm talking about hundreds of champions to collect, a super in-depth RPG battle system, amazing graphics, intense PvE boss fights. That all sounds pretty good, right? Well, come on, let me tell you a little bit more. Raid Shadow Legends is completely free to play with over 80 million downloads in total. This game has console and PC quality graphics while just being on mobile. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Raid Shadow Legends on my channel since we've worked with them in the past, and you know how much I actually enjoy playing the game. Recently, Raid has celebrated their 4th year anniversary, which happened just last month. To celebrate, we're gonna have a dinner party. What better way to do it? And we gotta invite some champions to this awesome festive dinner party. How about we get some champions with some good knife skills, those who can really carve us a delicious meal. Like Venus, who fits my theme so well. She's professional, she looks fantastic, and she's one of the more fun champions to play. And how about Jin Toro, who has a really deadly cool samurai sword that I honestly can't get over. It's amazing. Now, by far, my favorite champion has to be Cavalax. I mean, just look at him. He has the green, he has the gold, he has the black. It all suits my theme, and not to mention the fancy crown that he has on top of his head. And his power is pretty good too, dealing all of his poison attacks. Now, that's not all that Raid Shadow Legends has to offer. There's much more. This April, Raid is going on an egg hunt, but we're not hunting for normal eggs. We're hunting for some dragon eggs. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. All you need to do is download Raid Shadow Legends using my links below, copy your in-game player ID, and then head over on to egghunt.plarium.com from April 14th to May 15th. Enter your player ID and then journey through the flaming portal to embark on an exciting AR adventure. Scour the dragon's lair using your phone and see if you can find a hidden egg. You'll be in there for a chance of winning in-game items and even some real-life prizes, ranging from a legendary raid champion to Amazon gift cards with total values of $20,000. And don't worry, if you're an existing raid player as well, you can join in on the fun. Head over to the site and you'll find a special promo code that everyone can use to earn a small gift in-game. Now, with all this exciting stuff and more to come from Raid, now's the best chance to play. What are you waiting for? Use the link in my description or scan my QR code for some insane bonuses. Again, we're talking about the epic champion Knight Errant, and you get some other useful things as well. And once you're in, you can also find me crushing some enemies under the name The King Twitch. And if you're fast enough, you can actually join my clan. So with that being said, hit the link in the description and I'll see you on the battlefield. So let's start off with the juicy stuff. Recently, we got a PTB that was really bad. You know, it wasn't good. even as a killer main, it was not doing as well. So right now in Dead by Daylight, as you guys know, there's a 1-to-4 in a perfect world ratio of survivors to killers. This hasn't necessarily been the case as of recently. It is more like a 1-to-50 ratio. There has been a shortage of killers for a very, very long time, and this is for a lot of different reasons. Number one, the experience that a new killer gets in the game is not so good. You know, you jump into the game, you might get a really tough survivor lobby or people that are a little bit more experienced, and you don't really enjoy it. From that point, you just drop it, you don't think about it. Some killers on the flip side have been saying, especially some of the really OG killers and high MMR killers, that the game has been easier than it's ever been, and that's because there's a large pool of survivors to play from, not just the best of the best, so their games are easier. But building your way up is much more challenging because there's just so much more competition. With that being said, a lot of the killers have been opting out not to play, hence why we see these incentives that came into the game trying to help. This has been a long ongoing issue of there being incentives for killers, especially later at night, for people to play them. Because of this, these survivor queues have been a lot longer because killers are just getting into games quite easily, and it leads to a really bad ratio of survivors to killers. Now, what did we see in the last patch? We've seen nerfs to killers where some of the killers are like, all right, this is it, I'm not playing anymore. You nerf Kill Billy, you nerf gen kicking, we're not doing this anymore, which hurt the killer side quite a lot as well, because that's what a lot of people relied on. However, there was also a lot of bad changes to Survivor. Changes that I thought didn't necessarily needed to be changed. They sounded nice on paper as a killer main, but they weren't as healthy as we thought it was gonna be. We voiced our concerns in the PTP, which were then changed over, but still kind of like, maybe not the best. We'll have to wait and see. Well, obviously, we have waited and seen. Most all reviews are mostly negative. People are not happy about this. And the fact of the matter is there are more survivors than killers, and you nerf the survivors in an attempt, at least the way it looks, to get more killers to start playing again, helping out the killer side. So rather than buffing the killer side, they decided to nerf the survivor side. The problem here is that most of those survivors are going to get really angry. You're basically messing with them, you know, directly. If it was more so a buff to killers in some regard, some way, I don't know, maybe gave them something crazy just out there, base kit, Scourge Hook or something like that. I don't know. I'm just saying, for hypotheticals, I feel like it will be a lot more well received than if survivors themselves got to see the gameplay in their hand being affected. Because of that, so much people are upset about it, and a lot of those survivors are no longer playing Dead by Daylight. And if you don't believe me on this, look at the Steam charts. And that goes into a whole different argument, which I'll bring about in a second. But because of the most recent change that we've seen, and the lack of good killers that we've seen, there's been a constant downfall of killer players, and now there's going to be a constant downfall of survivor players because the patches have not been good for them either. So what does that leave us at? We have less survivors playing, which in theory makes the ratio a little bit better for the amount of killers, but overall it means that the pool of players have been going down, and they've been going down drastically, which is not good for the game. As for longevity, it won't be so good. Now, I'm not saying Dead by Daylight is going to die. I don't think Dead by Daylight will ever reach that point where it will die, because there will always be a solid foundation of players playing. However, it is really down on its last couple of legs, where I feel like their true bottom line lies, which is about a 30,000 average of players. Now let's back this up with some stats. I'm not just going to talk about things just to talk about them. So let's take it all the way back. Let's talk about March of 2020. We're going to use March, even though we're in April, because April's not fully done. We had about 30,000 players during this time. Cool. Not bad. Not bad. This was a good point for Dead by Daylight, because for the first time ever, they were in the 30,000s. They've always been in like the 23,000s. This was huge for them. Great. Dead by Daylight is growing. It's doing good. People are happy. June rolls around. We get our awesome Silent Hill chapter. People are losing their minds over this. Guess what happens? The player base increases. Great. We're at 40,000 now. We're doing quite good. This lasts for a while, the hype lasts, and it goes until we reach about October, which I believe we got a really bad Halloween event during this time. A lot of people were not happy with it. They decided to leave. It dropped the player base down to 33. It came back up a little because we had the Christmas stuff, all that. It ended up going and somewhere around 35,000. head into March 2021, we had about 34,000, which is 4,000 more than what we had on average from the previous. Now, again, this doesn't count console and all that, it's just Steam, but I'm sure the same sentiment can be reflected on other platforms. 34,000, cool. We got arguably one of the biggest chapters coming into Dead by Daylight, which I think it is, Resident Evil. The hype was huge. Everybody was flocking into DBD, and by the time July, we have seen 13,000 player increase from June, which had 8,000 players on average increase. It went from 34,000 to June and July all the way to 48 and 62,000 players on average. Absolutely monumental for Dead by Daylight. We've seen peak numbers of 105,000 that we've never seen before. The momentum was in their favor, and pretty much everything from the year that was bad was forgotten. Great! This is fantastic for DBD. But what did they do? They dropped the ball so bad that year. It was absolutely terrible. And that was the year that I thought they were really gonna do good. Everything failed, and every single patch from that point on was questionable, mediocre, bad changes, not being transparent. And tons of people made videos about this, and we talked about all of the things that happened, and you can check the older videos to know exactly all of it, because I don't remember everything off the top of my head. The numbers reflected. By the time March came around, all of that hype that lasted throughout August, September, October, where they still had 50,000 people, even up until December where they had 44,000 people, was all gone, and they were back to square one on March with 34,000 people. Now, at that point, I said, they have an opportunity to make this right. If their next anniversary, which would have been in June of 2022, would have been huge and blow everything out the water, they'll have another opportunity to make things right for the players and the community and really keep that longevity going and push Dead by Daylight to the next level. What did we get that year? We got the Dredge, which nobody cares about. We got Hattie, which up until the most recent cosmetics was one of the least played characters in the game. We got Garden of Joy, which so much people despise. And we've seen for the first time ever an original chapter instead of a licensed chapter. Now, in the past, every single licensed chapter has brought in so much new players, and that lasted for a while. We've seen from Resident Evil, we had 62,000 all the way until December, 44,000 of just Weskers. So much of them. Same with Pyramid Head. That number lasted so long. Instantly in June, we jumped up to 50,000, which is huge. Anniversary events here, new killers here. Everyone's excited. You know, everybody was like, you know what? We can take an original killer. But it was done so odd. And people really didn't like Hattie. People really didn't like Garden of Joy. People didn't like Dredge that much. That in the next year, all of that hype and momentum flopped. It went straight back down to their 36,000, which was roughly near their average. Now that continued and continued up until October. And then from October, it dropped down to 33,000 from 38,000. It was slowly climbing back up with a couple of good patches here and there. There was a time where Dead by Daylight were on a good winning streak. And then what did we get from October to now? Let's take a look. We got the Night. Not really a good chapter when you look at the reviews, when you look at the player base going down. Okay, you know, bad chapter. It is what it is. What did we get after that? The arguably worst chapter in Dead by Daylight history, the Skull Merchant. And then from that point, there was a couple of okay changes here and there. And then we got this PTB that really just missed the mark so bad on everything. Because of that, we're now in March of 2023, yet again with a 32,000 player base on average, according to Steam. And in the last 30 days, 30,000. We have not seen 30,000 since March of 2020. And that was when Dead by Daylight had their breakout and they jumped from 23,000 to 30,000. That's the floor that we've hit, essentially. That's where Dead by Daylight has gone. It is not good whatsoever. And yet again, I'm making this video saying that in the anniversary, they have one last chance to do it right. Give us a huge license killer and take that momentum and run with it. Give us a year that we've never seen before. Go above and beyond. And even if they haven't planned this to be licensed or planned for this year to be great, after seeing how bad the Knight and the Skull Merchant changes were and how negatively the PTB was, received, they should be like, all right, we have to one-up ourselves some way, somehow. Let's get it going. Now, I know they're busy. They're making a lot of different licenses with, U2s. They're making a movie. They're doing all these things, comic books, which is great. But the foundation needs some more cement. We need some more things to help Dead by Daylight, because you're starting to lose a lot of the OG players. And this wasn't necessarily a problem because there was always a cycle of new players coming in, old players going out, and that was always a thing. But now that's not really happening. We didn't get a lot of new players coming in at any point because we didn't receive any major licenses, and the ones that we did were kind of just meh, And now we're at a point where the peaks are going down, the average is going down, and they need to do something. Now, this also extends to the community itself. Now, all the fault can't be on behavior, and they have a chance to fix this with, a great year and a great anniversary, great roadmap, and hopefully they do that. In another video separately, I'll talk about what they can do. Now, the community, there's always been a back and forth between Killer and Survivor, but it's gotten to the point where it is so crazy to me how, I don't even, for lack of a better word, I don't know what to say, just obnoxious it has become. If you play with certain perks, if you play a certain way, if you tunnel because you want to win, if you teabag at the exit gate, if you look at a survivor on the floor too long, if you stay AFK for 2 seconds, everybody has a problem. I played DBD today on the stream, and every single game we had a DC, every single one, with the exception of just maybe one game. Every game we had a DC, first down, not even a hook DC. And this is the entitleistic view that not only the survivors, but killers have as well, where they just are like, nope, not doing it, don't care. And because of that, it makes the player experience for everybody else so bad. And everybody cares about themselves, of course, that's natural, but it's gotten so bad to the point where everybody's thinking the same way that nobody's ending up having fun in Dead by Daylight. At the end of the day, the way I have always felt, and I will continue to feel, is that everybody has paid their money for their game. They want to have fun, and fun is subjective, so fun is different for everybody. Whatever makes you have fun, do it your way, as long as it's within the rules. And I don't think at any point there's going to be a time where people are going to be like, all right, you know what? I won't DC because I actually care about the rest of my team, which is fine. So be it. And I think that's where behavior can step in. Number one, they can add bots. They can help that out. So that way people aren't really feeling that and people can keep their games going and having fun with that. So at least people can still have a good experience. Number two, have a reconnection kind of thing. Every game that I've played, even Dark and Darker I played recently, which is a brand new alpha game, has that feature. Make it so that if your internet does get disconnected, you can join back into the game. You're replaced by the bot for the time being. You come straight back in. If you actually pull the plug in DC, then you can get the penalty. And then that way, things can go a little bit better. Remove endgame chat. We don't need it. I mean, it causes so much toxicity and people really just give other players a bad time because of this. So that would be great if they can do that. And then, as much as it's probably hard for them to do, they need to fix or remove MMR. Ever since this has happened, games for everybody has been more and more miserable. Back in the days, you either were like, oh my god, this guy is really sweaty, you play the next game, you're fine. And that's how your games were. Sometimes you got really competitive people, sometimes you got people that didn't really care. And it was cool. I liked it. Maybe it's more subjective to me, but I thought that was fine. That's how all games were. And then when MMR got introduced, it's either one or the other. Either all your games are memes, right? So if you do play seriously, you will get way sweatier competition, or all your games are sweats and you can never have fun whatsoever. And that's a whole different thing where you're always playing sweaty, 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 sweaty. Eventually, you will become frustrated because the smallest things will bother you because you're playing competitively and you want to win. And at that point, you get burnt out from Dead by Daylight, and then you end up hating the game. So there's a lot of things that behavior can do to make things a little bit better. There's a lot of things that the community can improve on to make the game better and to continue to make it flourish and do well. At the end of the day, I love Dead by Daylight. It's the game that's held my attention for this long. It's literally the game that built my career, the chair that I got, the computer that is built for me, even the bite aligners to straighten my teeth are from Dead by Daylight because I had this opportunity to make content for you guys, and you guys supporting me have given me this platform in order to do it. And because the game is not doing good, I want to see it do better, and there's ways of making it better. The last thing I'll leave this on is that I think even the dev team might be confused on if Dead by Daylight is a casual game or a competitive game. The patches that we have been seeing recently and the killers that we've been seeing recently really make me think that they're trying to go for this competitive type of scene, which is fine. The problem with that is if you're going for competitive, everything in the game needs to be competitive. Everything needs to be competitive. Remove RNG if that's the case. Make maps stagnant. Get really good actual balancing into the game if you want to make it competitive. But if you want it to be a party game and you want it to be casual, which it definitely is more so in my opinion, you can play it competitively, but fundamentally I think it's more of a casual and fun party game, then you have to do different changes. And the changes that we have been seeing have been more so on the unfun competitive side, which by all means, but that's where the division happens. And I think that splits it more. And then we have the killers versus survivors, which splits it more. Then we have the community of entitlement versus people that actually are empathetic and care for people. So it splits it more. And then all of those divides make it so that a new player coming into the game are just like, this is too overwhelming. I'm not doing it. And the OGs are getting too frustrated because they're not seeing any changes. And that's where the game lies. At the end of the day, Dead by Daylight has another shot of doing this. The anniversary needs to be good. If it's not licensed and it's not good, we won't get that influx in players, which would help so much. But if we don't get that, or even if we do get that, for the following 6, 7, 8 to a year, months, years, they have to keep giving us good updates. And they can do that by starting to listen to the community and taking all the things that I just mentioned into account. And hopefully they'll do that. My rant is over. This was an unexpected video to make, but that's basically where Dead by Daylight's at. I didn't articulate myself as well as I wanted to because it's more from just kind of the heart and the head of talking about DBD. And I'll have a more well put together video about what solid changes Dead by Daylight can do in order to make these things better and what community members can do to make this better. That being said, Dead by Daylight definitely does have a problem, and hopefully this is going to be their shot of fixing it. I hope you guys did enjoy. As always, I'm the King. To my crown to you guys, and we'll see you in the fog.